We've got two good gets here. Of course, you mentioned Paul Manafort, the campaign manager, but also Steve Miller now. You usually do the introductions of the candidate out in the road, right?
I have a diverse role.
Okay, well, let's talk about the speech. How did you think it went tonight? Give it a grade.
Well, I think it was an A.
An A.
I think
What'd you give Ivanka?
I would give her an A+.
And what do you give John Voight for his narration of that film?
I thought John did a great job.
So 3 A's.
Yeah.
3 A's for you,
A's
too?
across the board.
I guess I'm asking for the home cooking
very
here.
objective.
Let me ask you about the anger in the candidate's voice. I mean, I've been trying to figure out where the anger is because you have to evoke something in material you're not used to reciting. Or he really wanted to convey anger, because I've seen Trump mix it up really well on the road usually. Humor, ad-libs, funny comments, nicknames. It's always very entertaining. Tonight I would say it was almost humorless in its power of just anger. Why was the message relentlessly the same tone, the same attitude for the whole hour plus?
Well,
did you write an angry speech, or did he just deliver it angrily?
If you listen to the audience, it was a speech that was punctuated by endless applause and cheers throughout the entire speech. So I think.
But no humor, no fun.
I thought there was a lot of humorous moments that he had with the audience, and a lot of very sincere and touching moments too. Like, for instance, when he talked about the audience's reaction to his pledge to protect the safety of LGBTQ citizens. Yeah. There was a lot of very human, disarming moments in the speech. That were really, I think, quite remarkable.
It is remarkable because in 2004, in this state of Ohio, you had Don King in your party, and you had Karl Rove dealing with the African-American ministers up in this county, revving up the anti-gay marriage vote.
Well,
that was used to basically destroy John Kerry in this state very effectively.
There was a lot of touching moments in this speech. Like,
no, I'm just asking, why the change? Why pro-gay rights?
Well, I don't think. See, the problem is, you said the term "gay rights" as if there's a group in America that don't believe there should be equal rights for everyone. Everyone believes in equal rights. Now, there are disagreements about what is a right and what is not a right, and you know that.
So the sentiment hasn't changed.
So what he's talking about is having a country where everybody feels safe, protected, and respected.
The sentiment's obviously changed.
Look, the purpose of
Paul Manafort, the sentiment in this audience was not anti-gay at all. It was pro-gay.
I mean, there were two moments that came up tonight, and both moments evoked a response because of the individual rights and the issues like that. Look, this is a party that, contrary to the way it's sometimes presented, is a pretty diverse party. Some of the criticism against Mr. Trump during the primaries was that he was not conservative enough. But he'd always said that he had certain positions that were related on the issues, not on being set into a peg. Tonight's goal in the speech was to present his vision of America. In that speech, he said, I'm not going to lie to you, unlike what happens traditionally in political speeches where people will, pretend that things are better than they are. He said, I'm going to tell you the truth. The fact that you consider that somber, well, that's the reality of what's going on in America today, because people are not feeling good about their country.
Can I tell you about an email I received?
Yeah, somebody said it's not a sunny speech because it's not a sunny country.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, I got an email after the speech from Sabine Durden, one of the moms he mentioned. She said, thank you so much for mentioning what happened to our families. I am crying through my eyes, barely can see the keyboard as I type now. Doesn't that mother deserve to have one night in America where her needs come first? There was something profound and beautiful. Sabine Durden, the mom he mentioned who lost her child to illegal immigrants. She was a legal immigrant from Germany. When he talked about it in the speech, there's no demonstrators on behalf of these victims. There's no special interests on behalf of these victims. I thought that was so touching and poignant. And I've seen behind stage the time he spent hugging and embracing these people. So that comes from a very sincere place in his heart.
But Chris, I want to point out something. This speech was a positive speech, too. In the beginning, he set the tone of what's going on in America. But at the end of the speech, he was talking about his vision for America and how he was going to stand up for all Americans. And he laid out, issue by issue, the difference between Hillary Clinton and himself and what he was going to do to make a difference. So he wasn't just offering a bleak perspective on the country. That people already know that. What he was saying is, yes, it's bleak. Yes, this is true. But here's what I'm going to do. And
this part I liked. Can I read the part I liked? Okay. We must abandon the failed policy of nation building and regime change that Hillary Clinton pushed in Iraq, Libya, Egypt, and Syria. Will Donald Trump position himself from here to November as a candidate against those policies of regime change?
Absolutely, he has from the beginning.
And the assumption here is that Hillary will defend it.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, this is actually. So again, there's so much rich texture going on here, and that's a great point. Donald Trump tonight positioned himself as a candidate who, on the issue of trade and foreign policy, sides with the great, broad heart and soul of working people in this country in both parties.
So on trade, illegal immigration, bad trade deals, and stupid wars.
Right. And so if you think about this, how historic that is, you had tonight a Republican nominee who said, I'm going to protect your jobs on trade.
Right.
And I'm going to stop reckless nation building and focus instead on policies that keep America safe.
And if you think about it, Chris, this is going back to the Reagan foreign policy of the 1980s, where before Bill Clinton became president, before Obama became president, since the 1990s, we moved away from a policy that put America first to a policy that became
but that
one
Bushy
nation.
crowd is still floating around.
They were in between, yes.
No, the Bush crowd believes in trade. Bush Sr., H.W., he came out for NAFTA. That was his creation, and Clinton got it through. They got a war of peace. Won the Gulf War, won the Iraq War at least. They got the Afghanistan War, that's 3 among them. So they were definitely for nation building and regime change. That's been their soul. But how do you move a party so dramatically from what it was just so recently?
Well, first of all, we're running against Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was an architect of the nation-building programs that were mentioned in the speech in Syria, in Egypt, in Libya, and in the Obama-Clinton administration. Has a very different approach than what Donald Trump is saying, and that's our campaign. And where he's going to move the country, he's already been talking about. This is not new tonight. He's been talking about this since he put his foreign policy.
And I'm so glad you brought it up, because I hope it is one of the most discussed and analyzed things in the coming days. Is that in the convention speech that we laid.
I think you and I agree on some things. This is frightening. Is Hillary a hawk?
Absolutely, but not. But here's the thing: she's a hawk. But I want to qualify that by saying,
are you going to call her a hawk?
I think she's somebody who's out of touch with what the American people want.
Right, but I want to be
Whether
clear.
that's a hawk
is she more hawkish than most people are?
She believes that the United States should take a more aggressive role in determining people's fates outside of this country.
Right, I would say she's a hawk when it comes to intervention, but she's not a hawk when it comes to building up our military, building up our missile defense, or going in targeted strikes against ISIS. But when it comes to nation building, yes, that's her game.
I think you're luring me into this trap here. But anyway, congratulations on a big speech, one of the big speeches of your career, I'm sure. And I thought I thought it was a little harangue for a long time there. And then I thought he didn't quite have the cadence. And then I thought it had a rousing ending. I thought it was very powerful. Yeah, Steve Miller, the great Paul Manafort.